can give you anything. Just tell me what you want. A house, a car, a planet or two, a mighty ship with a sailing crew. All you have to do is ask.
At Samantha's Bridal, we have learned never to say we've seen it all, or to claim there's nothing left that could surprise us in weddings. Just when we think there's nothing left that could shock us, something wacky happens, and we are wrong yet again.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
So we've given up claiming that we know everything that can happen at a wedding. We don't.
He said, I don't want dramas.
I think that stole the show for everybody.
Even after 12 years and over 2,500 weddings, things still shock, surprise, and even sometimes horrify us regularly.
We were like, we want delivery. We want delivery. We don't want this. You're doing this. We want this.
Our top 10 wedding countdown list captures the essence of weddings in Kenya by compiling the most superlative.
It was rumored at the time in the news, this is what the news, isn't it, said. Was it 1 billion or 3 billion, something like that?
Truly notable.
Even though the daughter was getting married, the mother really stole most of the headlines.
The whole wedding, we used about 4,000 stems of roses. That's only a tip of the iceberg.
Absolutely blue ribbon culture bric-a-brac.
My total look? This is a lot of money. 6,200?
No,
US dollars.
12 million Kenya shillings for decor.
Wow.
Stick to the budget.
Part drama and reality.
Confirmed. Very confirmed. Confirmed. Very confirmed.
We have compiled the wedding countdown. In today's show, weddings in most instances are special occasions, but the fun seems to double up when a star ties the knot or the couple does something extraordinary that leaves our tongues wagging.
When you're a celebrity, there's a lot of pressure because you know a lot of people want to have their noses all up in your business.
From what they wear,
Many Kenyans reacted to the dress.
One thing I think the world forgets is I am a pastor's daughter. I'm not a pastor.
Ori as a person is over the top, and I think if you're her daughter and you're getting married, that's already like you have to get to her bar and surpass it.
to how the decor was.
The whole wedding, we used about 4,000 stems of roses.
I think that stole the show for everybody.
Everything is always followed up by fans. Despite the fact that some of the marriages have ended, there are some celebrity weddings that are just ingrained in our memory. They're the ones that truly set the trend or were just so different that they still make their way into conversations. Here is Samantha's Bridal unofficial ranking of the most talked about weddings. At number 10, when they say that Luo is a lifestyle, not a tribe, no one tends to justify the assertion more than Jared Otieno, a successful city businessman famous for spending 30 million Kenya shillings to acquire a customized Porsche.
I don't know who he is, but I think their wedding was full of pomp and glamour.
I guess if you have money, go ahead and spend it.
This man of means, as his friends call him, brought Meru town to a standstill as he spent nearly 15 million shillings as dowry to his girlfriend Mary Kendi, leaving Kenyans to wag their tongues.
Remember some story about helicopters when they were going to pay bride price or something? That's not exactly undercover.
If you're going to arrive with a helicopter, that's really not undercover. You meant that you want the world to know about it.
This was a question of somebody who was trying to fulfill what he believed his personality is or was. I'm seen as somebody who is from a particular tribe and we do things a particular way, or I am perhaps People think that I have a certain amount of wealth and money, and so I have to fulfill that particular promise. And, you know, whether that wedding was fulfilling that purpose or truly this was his way of celebrating the love between him and his wife is a debatable point. It's just a way of flaunting wealth, flaunting power, perhaps letting people know that this is how I live my life. You know, it's not for me to judge whether that couple are truly in love, but for me, the wedding is more about the importance of that ceremony. It's about celebrating that special moment between the two people, and not about the attendant cars or how huge the wedding cake is, and so on and so forth.
His entourage comprises of his equally moneyed friends in 4 choppers, a fleet of Mercedes-Benz, 5 Porsche cars, and other top-of-the-range vehicles. This triumphant entry brought everything to a standstill as the villagers left all they were doing to see the extraordinary incident. To top it all up, their invite-only wedding, which took place at the Windsor Hotel, was the climax of the whole affair, where millions were spent to entertain their reportedly 1,200 guests.
We did Jared Atieno's wedding as well. His wedding was also very nicely done, very good couple. You know, they gave me freedom to do what I wanted. So I think that was one of my really good weddings. In fact, the wedding, the church setup that we did, I got an award for it last year in Italy, for one of the best setups they had seen, and now in a panel of international work as well. It was an all-white wedding, and all white and gold.
The bride was chauffeured to the venue on a horse chariot complete with flower petals, which practically looked like a story from a fairy tale.
One day a wedding planner, that's Aura Events, calls us, and they want to book a horse and a carriage. What struck me is the home where the bride was being picked it was like a full wedding by anybody. For most people, for most ordinary Kenyans, that would be a full wedding. There was a feast, a proper feast, and people were completely, properly dressed. I didn't know it was Jared's wedding.
That's a good example of what I call conspicuous consumption, where you have money and you're going to show everyone through the choices that you make, the things that you buy, you want everyone to know that you have money. And you know, I guess good for them. The choices they made, he was in a very nice classic black suit, bow tie, he looked fantastic. Kendi's dress was also very classic as well. I'm sure they were not cheap, but the good thing about it is that they also didn't look tacky.
It was quite flamboyant.
Here are some of the photos from their extravagant nuptial. At number 9, another wedding that broke the social web was Safaricom CEO Bob Collymore's nuptial to the love of his life, Wambui Kamiru, an artist and the founder of the art space.
I love the simplicity of their wedding. You know, I think Bob Collymore's wedding was a lesson to us about it doesn't matter how much money you have. It's actually possible to do a really small, intimate, simple but really classy affair.
I think they invited their real friends. A lot of Kenyans need to start looking that direction on simple weddings, micro weddings.
The wedding, which was an invite-only affair, purple and white themed ceremony, was held at a private residence in Kitisuru.
Actually notice, the richer and more experienced somebody becomes, the more minimalistic they become. Actually, there is nowhere in the law that specifies what you need to wear. It's not part of. For as long as whatever you're wearing does not lead to deception. But you can wear whatever you want to wear, even a bikini.
Sometimes what happens with people who are public figures is once they've reached a certain level of success, they don't have to necessarily use something like a wedding to advance their brand. As we see with some of the younger couples or the couples that are in a different segment or industry, so for example in entertainment, they will use a wedding as a way of advancing their brand. Bob Collymore, well-known business person, clearly also at the height of his powers, CEO of Safaricom, decides to hold a wedding, wants it private. I'm sure he discussed this with his wife, and they decided on a smaller private affair. And so we see the contrast between that and sort of the larger ostentatious celebrity weddings.
Questions were hurled left, right, and center on how a seemingly simple woman got the love of one of Kenya's richest CEOs.
Wambo is an artist, and I've met her through other channels through work, and I think that is her personality. Even if you look at, she wasn't like overdone with makeup, her hair was her standard look, and I think she kept to that even on her wedding day.
It looked like it was a joyous occasion for family and friends.
In fact, this is the new trend in the world. Micro weddings.
At number 8, we have the renowned Eunice Njeri, whose marriage to her fiancé, Isaac Bukasa, resulted in a social media going abuzz about the rushed nuptials that was held a fortnight after the pre-wedding.
This to me would seem to be a publicity stunt.
Despite their marriage ending after just 2 months, we can still say that it was one of the most talked about celebrity weddings.
You know, one lady told me when she was walking down the aisle, this is not Eunice, just a lady I shared with her, she's since then divorced. She told me when she was walking down the aisle, she was like, should I not? Should I not? Should I not? Then she said, anyway, I can always divorce him. Let me just marry. For 10 years, she spent it in the divorce court. For Eunice, it looks like it's something that may have been discussed. That let's go through with it because all the guests have arrived from wherever it is they have. Don't embarrass me. So she went through with it as far as the church is concerned. Because she made vows. At least that's what the photos suggested. So it's better that they had this understanding than have to go through a divorce.
At number 7.
And Molly's wedding, these are years and we're still talking about it.
On September 5th, 2009, Lilian and Moses Kanene tied the knot in a pink and white themed wedding at Windsor Golf Club that was attended by 200 guests.
For a wedding of the time, I think her dress was very appropriate. If you look at, her dress had those pickups, which right now, of course, is a no-no. But at the time, if you even look at big brands like Pronovias, pickups was a thing.
It was a beautiful wedding and very tasty for the time. It was full of style. From the music they played Andrea Bocelli and a lot of other opera pieces that I liked.
They not only signed their marriage certificates, but also, unwittingly, they also signed up to public company. And from henceforth, their lives could be bought and sold on social media.
Tieng covered it live on Prime News. Let me just say, that was the whole news. And then it was full in the newspaper. So even though we covered it, we didn't air it.
Part of the interest in that wedding had to do with how the engagement took place, which again was public, as I recall. And again, we're sort of seeing this trend towards celebrities using weddings as a way to advance part of their brand. And I think that's what made this particular wedding very interesting. And one of the things that I remember and caught my eye was the attire. And this was the attire of the groom, who I believe wore the full morning suit complete with a top hat. And so again, this made headlines, was splashed all over the local media. And again, this was sort of coming into the area of when social media was beginning to be used as a way of either reporting on weddings or for people to hear about them.
She had the same challenges that all celebrities have when they're getting married. One, trying to keep it private. Two, trying to get, making sure it's not in the gossip mags, which is always very difficult to do because people are very creative about how they collect information.
I think compared to today's weddings, it was good for that time. And I always say luxury for a celebrity is actually privacy. And sometimes they're not able to have that privacy.
At number 6, Linda and Isaac's 12 million shilling nuptial, which took place at Windsor Golf Club, was featured as the most talked about wedding.
Why did people get really interested in this wedding? The thing that really caught the attention of many people was the 12 million.
It's 9 million. Because the US event is totally different, right?
Yeah. The US wasn't that. We actually thought at one point it was high. We put together a committee that was helping us do our wedding. So they were really helping us put together a send-off. It was almost 35,000 dollars. US dollars.
Yeah.
My total look, it was a lot of money. 6,200.
No, US
dollars.
We haven't talked about the shoes, about everything else. Now that is someone's wedding. $500,000 is what a lot of ordinary people spend on their weddings. And this is not something like fake news. This is coming from her own mouth.
Being that Linda is the daughter of the renowned televangelist, Pastor Pius Moiro, no shilling was spared in making their wedding grand and opulent.
There were people everywhere, every corner. You could just see people, and then everybody wanted to get a shot of the helicopter.
From the choppers to stretch limos to the Range Rovers, it was clear that this was no poor man's business.
In fact, I remember very many dailies, very many blogs talking about it. It was in relation to the fact that, as compared to, say, other pastors, I could be wrong, but it's my perception that they target the lower, middle, and the lower end of the socio-economic group. Pastor Mwiru's missionary, even though they preach to everybody, the attendants are not billionaires, the people who go to this church. It's ordinary people from the street like you and me, ordinary folks like us. And so the moment you're telling me 12 million, this is an apartment, a 1-bedroom apartment in Kilimani. It's a 3-bedroom house in Syokimau. Of course, we are going to talk about it. So, clearly, but life is for the living, isn't it?
At number 5, when there is something going on in State House, even if the affair was meant to be private, word will always go round on what's going on.
When it comes to politicians getting married or people who are related to politicians, maybe they come from a particular family, this is always going to cause controversy. Imagine that, yes, the engagement ceremony was private because they wanted people not to come up with, either made up stories or to come up with things that really didn't have anything to do with the couple. And so sometimes they're forced to do that in order to keep these ceremonies more private. I honestly think that we need to be able to step back a little, give them the respect and the privacy that I think any couple would want. Sure, they're public figures. There's going to be some sort of buzz surrounding their wedding, but at the end of the day, this is about the couple and has nothing else to do with either the politics around it or any other, any other stuff to do with the wedding.
The only reason why even these knowledge in terms of we even got to know that they are getting married is because other people were present at the wedding and they released the photos. Those were not official photos actually released to the media.
This was the case when Jomo, the president's first son, and his stunningly hot girlfriend, Fiona Achola Ngobi, had their Kikuyu cultural wedding, Rorashio, on October 22nd, 2016.
In as much as his father is the president of the country, they're a very private family. And so they were able to actually just keep it within the family.
The wedding has not happened, but they've had the private ceremony. Recently, they've just had a child. Congratulations to them.
The lucky maiden is the brainy granddaughter of the late Luo politician, Dr. William Odongo Omamo. Her maternal aunt is the Cabinet Secretary for Defense, Rachel Omamo. This low-key affair was kept away from the media, and close family and friends attended the ceremony, which was held at an undisclosed location.
I think for Jomo, he just wants to live his life. I'm not the president. Leave me alone. I just happen to be the president's son. Even the royal family, they know how much people are interested. People are genuinely interested, not because of maliciousness. People just want to know.
When it comes to politicians getting married or people who are related to politicians, maybe they come from a particular family, this is always going to cause controversy. Our insatiable need, especially for those of us here in Kenya, to want to find out, especially where politicians happen to be our rock stars in many cases. And so anytime someone from a prominent political family is going to get married, it's going to create some sort of media buzz. So whether that's on social media or in the mainstream media, you know what? I go back to what I've said earlier about this being an occasion between a couple who are celebrating their love, whether it's an engagement ceremony, whether it is a wedding ceremony. And really, I think that attention we paid to sort of the surrounding stories, particular weddings, we would be better off.
Jomo and his girlfriend were engaged in June 2016 and had previously been seen together at public functions.
Considering that Kenya doesn't have much material culture remaining, meaning we don't really know what we used to wear, I think it was a nice touch for them to kind of try and do something very traditional. Again, there's the expectation that when people have a lot of money or from a particular status, you want them to go over the top.
Their union will be formalized in a church wedding. At number 4,
Betty Kyallo is a very much loved news anchor. I personally enjoy watching Friday news because she's bubbly. She's just this girl next door who really made it, but she doesn't look like success got to her head. I don't know how she can just mix these two things together. Betty Kyallo, the name Betty Kyallo sells. In the absence of a royal family in Kenya, who do we look up to? Celebrities. And there is our girl there, our princess. She's getting married. Of course we are interested.
Hi, Beatrice, Mutwa, Kyallo, Betty, Yolanda, Mutei.
I really get upset. They never invite me. Not that I want to be invited. It would be nice, for one.
When NTV investigative journalist Dennis Okari married his sweetheart Betty Kyallo after dating for 6 years in an exclusive affair at the Marula Manor in Karen, Nairobi.
It was all over social media, and in fact, I believe both, if not one of the couple, was overtly walking us through the entire process.
The whole wedding, we used about 4,000 stems of roses. Background, my goodness, the background of course took, a majority of it. So it was about, I think, about 2,500 stems of roses.
The ceremony was attended by the who's who in TV, plus top businessmen and other celebrities.
This is an instance where we're seeing celebrities using events like this to advance their brand, to increase their popularity, and to connect with a wide section of their target market and indeed spread their network.
If you have a huge following like she does, then of course what was wrong with her sharing this beautiful moment, this beautiful day with everybody? And yes, people were interested.
At number 3, who can forget the hype that went along with Emmy Kosgei's wedding?
I must say, we are one of the media that wanted to cover this wedding, and well, something didn't work out somewhere and we were banned.
This is what we call a wedding that is over the top.
Oh, I like Emmy Kosgei. I loved that she did her natural hair thing, and I loved her headband. She just looked like an African queen marrying an African king. That was their wedding, if you ask me to conclude it.
The Tunei Nalel hitmaker made headlines when she tied the knot with her sweetheart, Nigerian evangelist Anselm Madubuko, at the Windsor Golf Hotel and Country Club in Nairobi on 31st August 2013.
It was rumored at the time in the news that this is what the news, isn't it, said. Was it 1 billion or 3 billion, something like that? Of course, that is going to attract attention.
Nigerians obviously doing it in style, you know, helicopters, 2 weddings, huge one in Kenya, huge one in Nigeria.
One of the issues that raised eyebrows was the age difference, but Emmy dismissed that fact by emphasizing that it is his character that drew her to him. They met in Mombasa in 2010 and became an item in 2012. Their relationship, which was born at Bishop Wilfred Lai's Mombasa megachurch, raised a lot of questions to linger in the minds of many as to why the affair had been rushed.
This was certainly one of the most ostentatious weddings that we have seen, and clearly also the lifestyle in terms of what we've seen post that particular wedding.
You know, Kenyans are very religious. We are a very religious nation. Whether you're Muslim, Hindu, Christian, name it. There was a time in terms of who do you believe, who do you trust? And there was a survey that was done, and religious leaders rank really high. Okay? Number 1, she was marrying a man of God. Okay? She is a gospel musician. A lot of her songs are loved, and she's a loved musician. Like I said, in the absence of a royal family, who are the royals? And somebody asked, do people know really what billion is about? Forget 3 billion. Do people really know how much is 1 billion? These are how many years later? Even today, I still ask, do people really know how much a billion is? Religion in Kenya, and especially when you're high up there, people want to know these blessings. You, first of all, don't pray for us. If that God who is blessing you, you're telling us God will bless you, if he hasn't blessed you yet, don't. So it's very important for religious leaders and anybody who is dealing anything with religion, I think so, to show prosperity. How are you coming to pray for me and you can't pray for yourself?
At number 2, Elizabeth Rogo, daughter of the Queen of Gele, Oria Rogo's wedding, was the talk of town.
We had the exclusive rights of covering this wedding, like officially. But I must also say, Elizabeth didn't even know we were recording this wedding.
You know that if it's anything to do with Oria Rogo Manduli, I mean, that woman has so much verve, you know, so how I'm sure the wedding was full of life and just, you know, it was flamboyant, because by her very nature, she's a very flamboyant woman. Everything she does it with loud style. So her daughter's wedding was like that. Yes. I really don't think that there's anything that she was surprised by. Her mother was just being in character. Orie Rogo Manduli was just being Orie Rogo Manduli.
Orie as a person is over the top, and I think if you're her daughter and you're getting married, that's already like you have to get to her bar and surpass it.
This 10 million nuptial took place on March 29th and was attended by the who's who in the social as well as political strata.
No matter how well-known a public figure you are, if somebody in your family is getting, particularly a son or a daughter, this is an opportunity for them to shine.
We want to make sure this marriage is cemented in cement. You understand?
Elizabeth Rogo, a gas and oil engineer based in the United States, walked down the aisle and wedded her Ghanaian college sweetheart, Nana Agiemana, at the All Saints Cathedral in Nairobi.
Even though the daughter was getting married, the mother really stole most of the headlines.
The only reason she accepted to be covered is because she wanted to correct the misconceptions about what was being said on social media, and a lot of things, surprisingly, that had been covered in the mainstream media.
There are many issues that have been discussed about this marriage. First, in a departure from the traditional norm where brides wear white on their big day, Elizabeth donned a unique greyish gown which had brass metallic decorations around its tail. She accessorized with silver jewelry.
Many Kenyans reacted to the dress. I don't think any one of us anticipated that she's going to be pulling out this number. I was wondering, who is that? Because it's supposed to be the best maid holding the trail. But here there's this guy, and I'm thinking, is she having a guy for her best maid? She is not a conventional bride.
It was a very nice dress. I remember it was locally made. I loved the style of it. I loved that it was different.
She was not a traditional bride. Her dress was aluminium color. Now, you stand out in an aluminium color. When I saw her coming out, I thought, is that a Catholic nun? She looked like a Catholic nun. But the way she combined, the secret is, which a lot of people don't know, aluminium is the color that goes with every color. Did you see how that dress looked like with those pinkish burgundy flowers? She stood out. Which brides dress like that?
The neck piece was done out of amethyst, pearls and aluminium. And even if you keep it for 5 years, it still looks new. Maintaining aluminium is simply just washing it in a hand wash and sponge, and it comes back, all fresh and silver all over again.
When I think about that wedding, I feel like Orie looked better than the bride. I don't know, man.
Some people alleged that Orie outshined her daughter. I say no, she didn't. She actually did not.
Another drama that the social web talked about was the fact that Ambassador Manduli apparently demanded to sit in the limo that had been set aside for the bride, instead of the Pajero that had been reserved for her.
It's very difficult for someone like Orie Rogo Manduli to be undercover or to be, in the shadows. It's impossible. So I don't think it's really a controversy. She was just being who she is. She's loud and she's flamboyant. Remember her headgear, she's an exclamation mark. Everything else happens. She's on who finishes.
I read it in the Standard. I was like, that's strange, because that did not happen. I was very surprised. I was angry about it, and we met the photographer who took the picture to try and build up on his story, and he apologized. His name was Elvis. And we said that was wrong. If you're going to report the truth. Okay, if that's what really happened, then I guess you could have reported it for publicity, but it did not happen.
Her 45-minute speech that was laced with humor and grace during the reception was also subject of discussion, as many people saw these as stealing the limelight during her daughter's nuptial.
Somebody saying that probably lives under a cave, or I don't know which stone they live under. Because if you live in Kenya, you probably know of who Orie Rogo is. And I must say, being used to seeing how she looks like, this is not how she looks like every day. It was a little bit understated. Now you just need to go back and see how she really looks like. I think her daughter stood out.
At number 1.
My daughter's eyes, I am a hero. I am strong and wise, and I know no fear.
The first thing is that what stood out for me and what was so dear to my heart was the fact that, forget the dress, this wedding was actually happening at the Kuna residence. And this is one hell of a residence. It is really the Vatican of Jubilee Christian Church. Why are you building all these big houses for, if our children are not going to get married there?
Robert and Vanessa Kuna's private wedding that took place at the Kuna's residence in the leafy suburbs of Runda is also part of our list.
There's this public image they need to live to, and then there is the private image. So trying to marry those two, that's actually what came to mind.
They did what they wanted. You know, did they nail the wedding they wanted? I guess we'd have to ask them. But it looked fabulous, in my opinion.
Couples are advising, encouraging their guests to dress a particular way. It may be a theme, it may be a color. Listen, that is the couple's day. It is up to them to decide how they would like people to show up at their wedding. At the very least we should do is try and honor their wishes. Listen, couples do this for a variety of reasons. They might do this to be able to stand out. Perhaps they want the pictures to look a particular way. It could be for any number of reasons that they're doing this. I don't think it is broaching or breaching any wedding etiquette. If anything, I think it just adds to the ceremony, brings a certain flavor, and at the end of the day, as I said, this is the couple's day and their wishes should be respected. If more people dressed up for weddings, in fact, personally, I believe it would be better for everybody.
The Kuna family is one of the most famous and influential families in the country who ran the Jubilee Christian Church, better known as JCC, at Parklands.
I remember she had this fabulous dress, fantastic dress. She also had the body to go with it, you know. Sometimes people miss the memo about, you know, body type versus style.
Her dress, I can understand it broke the internet. Because this was a one-of-a-kind dress. Galia the have. I mean, for the uninformed, you just need to Google and just see her designs. She's one of the top designers who feature at New York Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week. On the bridal fashion, she's one of the top names. And so therefore, I'm not surprised. She was on point, on the money, as far as fashion is concerned.
This has got nothing to do with the bride's parents. And so what she chooses to wear on that day is, in my mind, appropriate.
Her dress, I have never seen anything like that anywhere in the world with anybody, not even Beyonce. You couldn't touch it. Her dress was beyond. It was an expensive piece, but it was worth every coin. The gown took 6 months to make, and it just hugged her body very well, curved her very well, and then the buttons at the back, little buttons at the back, and then the sheer all over, like at the back had sheer, and on the sides it had sheer that you would almost think that's the skin. I mean, oh, she looked good. She's a young 25-year-old. She has her life. She's not the pastor. So if she wants to look nice and wear that, I support her. And there is nothing, it wasn't showing nothing. There was nothing revealed. It was just a beautiful hugging dress that looked absolutely beautiful. I would wear it if I had that body. Believe me.
All I kept on thinking, but then I was like, should I wear a dress to please everyone on my wedding day, or should I wear something that I have always dreamed of? And I thought, well, I get married once, so rumors be damned, say what you have to say, but I felt happy, I felt beautiful, and I felt very comfortable.
So it means if they are planning the daughter's wedding, the first daughter's wedding, in fact, the first daughter, in the sense of, because they are presidents of their churches, so she's really the first daughter, in the sense of first daughter. Wow. Because of the life they live and the kind of church they ran, everybody was bound to want to know, in the fashion stakes, how was the wedding? A media savvy. There were maybe 1 or 2 photos, but the photos were not really out there. Yeah, a few photos got out, but not too many. So I really am happy that one of the few people who are actually disciplined as far as media is concerned. As far as weddings are concerned and happily ever after is concerned, the society perceives it that once you have found the one, then you are going to live. It's like, you're crossing this river in style and you're beginning your happily ever after, which we always hope it will be. So therefore, there's a lot of interest in the crossing over itself, which happens to be the wedding. Okay? And therefore, from time immemorial, weddings have always been of interest to humanity. They've always been getting the catch. Whether it's the man getting the catch or the lady, it depends on how you're looking at it. But it's expected that you're going to cross this river in style. And that's what weddings are about.
What are your sentiments on today's show? Share your views on our Facebook fan page at Samantha's Bridal. Follow us on Twitter at Samantha's Bridal, or simply go to www.samanthasbridal.co.ke. Discussions are going on now.